La la la. Good morning, friends. I'm just kind of dicking around trying to get started here. Mrs. just got home with the kitty. One of the kitties wasn't feeling good. So we had to take her to the vet, and she had a fever. Poor baby. That going. There we go. Shrinky dinky doo. Hey, babe. Hopefully Fletcher's up and can run out and grab groceries out the car. All right. All right. Well, I guess we'll get started. It's Tuesday, September 10th. I am Rob, that developer dad, and I'm building stuff. I'll pop that right into the chat and pin it so the people who come in can see what I'm doing at a glance. Boop! Okay. Getting all kinds of silly, dumb things come in on notifications and stuff. And yesterday we got a good bit of progress on the resource access component that is going to be in charge of recording and querying how much resources have been consumed by who. So we're going to finish that up today. And we're probably going to do a little bit of work on the subscription access component. And that's probably going to take up all the time I've got this morning. But we shall see. So we've got our quota access SQL provider. I got the data transformers in place yesterday. I had to do some things there to be able to get the correct quota template information and stuff like that together. But that work that I did will actually help us in another part of this with the user subscription access provider. We're actually going to need that same construct that I set up in user access over there. Oh, excuse me. Goodness. So I need to come over here. And I'm going to drop these guys up in here. There go those. And then I've got another one of those lazy load properties that I implemented. So this CTX property, yes, we've got a member level variable for the context, but I'm not actually going to create the context until the first time we use it during the process of executing an end user's request. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here with these quota templates. Now, some people might want to just push this concept up into, say, like an application-wide Redis cache, but I don't want the rest of the application to have access to this. This data should be scoped only to usage and subscriptions. So we're just going to keep it here. And yeah, I could get into setting up keyed caches where each component has its own cache and everything like that, but honestly, I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense for that because a lot of those services cease to exist once the request is finished processing. Yes, I understand that you can do a singleton cache service and stuff like that, but honestly, I haven't determined that there is much value in doing that yet. That's an optimization that we can make in the future if we decide we need it. I'm not going to add that complexity now because I don't see the need for it yet. Excuse me. All right, so we've got some operations on subscription. And the very first thing that we're going to need to be able to do is start a subscription for a user. And with that, we're going to get the user ID and a nullable subscription kind, which isn't going to be relevant right now, because the only kind of subscription that we are going to have at the beginning is a 30-day subscription that renews their token quota for the next 30 days. So what do we need to do to start a subscription? First thing we have to do is create a user subscription SQL model and write it to the database. And actually, the first thing we ought to do is verify that the user ID is not already attached to an existing subscription. Existing and active. Rob, come on, man. I've been using this Mac keyboard in my remote desktop thing for a month and a half now, and I'm still using the wrong keystroke combinations to fast forward the cursor to the end of the line. Old habits die hard, I guess. Once we've got the user subscription model, we need to provision user quotas for the different resources the subscription grants. All right. Voice things voiced. And op result of user subscription result equals new op result of user subscription. Let's get that set up right now. User subscription, and that's one of our resource models. Result payload equals new user subscription. And we're just going to attach the user ID. What other things do we have on here? Oh, goodness. I didn't want to paste a bunch of stuff. End date, start date, will renew. Let's not do anything else yet. We'll fill the rest of that stuff in once we've determined that there is not already a user subscription. And in fact, I'm going to delete that initialization code. And I'm going to, oh, stop it. I'm going to make this variable nullable. There we go. We'll assign it later if we need to. Down at the bottom, I'm going to say result.payload equals result payload, good, bad, or otherwise, and we're going to return the result. And I got to make this async. There we go. Now, because we're going to be calling out to an external resource, we're going to wrap this whole kit and caboodle in a try catch. Cut that. Paste my instructions. Catch an exception. EX. And string error equals could not start the subscription for user ID, ex.message. Now, once we've started looking into the different kinds of exceptions that we can get back from making a database call, we might start varying this stuff, especially when we start talking about get into things like resilience and retries and so on. Could not start the subscription for user ID. Hack. There we go. We're gonna logger.log error. And we're just going to pass in which overload do I want to use. Event ID, message, exception. All right. EX. And error. Bam. Good enough. And result.add error. GUID.new. GUID error. Boop. All right. First things first. If context dot user subscriptions dot any. Now we need to do something in here. So us dot user ID equals user ID, and also is it us dot period end is greater than or equal to today date time today equals date time dot now. Dot date, yeah. To today, and also us dot unsubscribed date forever. So if unsubscribed date is null, we are going to use forever is greater than today. So Any user subscriptions where the user ID matches, it ends later than today, and the unsubscribed date actually is null. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I am so sorry. I forgot to share my screen. Tezzy? There's stuff going on in my house. Like, Kitty, one of our kitties, is not feeling great. So we had to take her to the vet this morning, and there's groceries getting gotten, and my wife isn't feeling great, and all of that stuff. So if any of those things are true, and I've got too many parens. There we go. You, my friend, can go all the way back to the start of the line. Pop in here, like so. We are going to say result.add error GUID.new GUID. And the error message is going to be user with ID, user ID, already has an active subscription. Okay. And we're going to return. Rob, for crying out loud. I should return that subscription, is what I should do. Var current subscription equals copy that, paste it here, and I'm actually going to say greater than or equal to today. How's it going, Tezzy? Twitch tells me that you are new around here. And welcome to the workshop. So if current subscription is not equal to null, we're going to do this. We've typed bool. Got to change this. Silly Rob. First or default. There we go. And I'm going to say result.payload equals current subscription. And we're going to return not implicitly, oh yeah, .to DTO. Bring in my collection of type converters. Ah, well, welcome aboard. Can you still see the little the thing I pinned at the top where I'm working on a application that's going to help me run my D&D games and such? Okay, so all of this is actually inert code. I can show it off. None of the code that I'm working in right now is integrated in with the rest of the application flows or workloads or anything like that. So I'll just run it locally, but I'm actually the backend database and AI service are all up in the cloud, and it might take a minute for the SQL database up in Azure to wake up because I'm using the free tier and Azure puts it to sleep. Oh, I know. I should actually leverage this. Oh, okay. I should have it stopping on all errors so that I can capture the exact error that it's throwing so that I can handle it better and add some resilience. But in a minute, after my Azure SQL wakes up, the helper app is Blazor, and it's like for tabletop D&D. And when I'm running my games, yeah, it's ASP.NET, absolutely. When I'm running my games, my players are constantly tripping me up. Like they'll go into a shop or a tavern or whatever, and they want to know way more about the tavern keeper or the barkeeper or whatever. So I've got a bunch of lists and I've got a dice simulator, and I use the dice simulator to flesh out the NPC, and then I take those randomly rolled attributes and pass those up to a large language model to generate things like a name, a more English sounding description of their appearance, personality, so on and so forth. And then I've got that stuff available to me when my players ask me, so what's they look like and what's their name and stuff. And so let's say we are heading into a smith. We could use a random species for that, but I need a blacksmith spun up real quick. We roll the dice. Yeah, this works. But let's say I don't want a stereotypical dwarven smith. Let's go with a half-elf. And we'll generate the AI description. And here we go. Quiet and resilient, strong sense of duty, skilled smith. Growing up as an urchin, learned to survive on the streets. His tough early life led him to the forge where he found purpose and stability. I like this guy. I'm going to save him. So off he goes. And I've got him ready, waiting in the wings for when my players hit me up with that. And this is just sort of the first minimum viable product feature that I'm putting together for this, because this whole thing started off as, well, I want to build a .NET app to demonstrate design principles, architecture, code structure, all of these best processes that I've learned during my 20 plus years of writing software. And I'll say I made the mistake of showing it to some of my players and some of the other DMs at the local gaming store. And they were like, holy crap, dude, I'd pay to use this. So now I'm going through the process of taking it from just a neat, cool little toy I built for myself to something that I can actually open up for people to use. And what I'm working in right now is the subscription model, or the code that's going to manage the subscription data, so that I can make sure my customers aren't costing me more in Azure hosting fees than they're paying me in monthly subscription. Because large language model tokens ain't free. As much as I would love to just be able to give it away, I'm currently unemployed and cannot afford to fund even 2 or 3 people's usage of the GPT models we're using in the background. I did get my Azure bill for this thing for last month this morning, and it's right now it's sitting at a whopping 5 cents. I don't know if I'm going to be able to financially recover from that. So if the user who has just been submitted to start a new subscription already has an active subscription, we're going to send that back. If they do not, we are going to, yeah, sure thing, man. Happy to explain anything I'm doing. My primary purpose for starting up that developer dad is to share the crap that has worked its way into my head over the years with anybody that wants to know it. I've learned that mentoring is one of my favorite things to do in a professional setting, and I want to keep my skills sharp there. So if you have any questions, pipe up. I'd be more than happy to answer them if I can, and if I can't, I'll tell you. I'm not one of those guys that's just going to make something up to seem smart. If I don't know, I'll tell you. So create user subscription. All right, so I need a user subscription SQL model. New sub equals new user subscription SQL model. Boopity boop. Bop. And I'm going to go ahead and use the implicit property assignment. User ID equals user ID. What other things have I got here? Created date equals now. Now, I declared today up here. I also need now. Date time now equals datetime.now. And why am I doing this up here? Because every time we call this datetime.now, the CPU actually has to run some code and do some thinking. And I don't want it to have to do that more times than is necessary for this exact same reason. So I'm just going to read those values into variables before I start my work here. So created date is now, period start equals today, period end does not equal now. It equals today dot add days 30. And yes, that is oogie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and we're going to refactor that up to a constant for 30. And it is going to be default subscription length days. There. And I'm just going to say subscription length days. Save. Let's come back down to where we were. There we go. Subscription length days. What else have we got? Unsubscribe date is going to be null. Updated date will be null. And ID is machine assigned. And we're going to say ctx.usersubscriptions.add new sub ct. Oh, not yet. I also need user quota SQL model storage quota equals new user quota SQL model with user ID equals user ID. Quota template ID equals templates where resource kind dot storage dot to string dot ID. Yep. Var storage template equals and var token template equals, and it's not going to be NPC storage, it's going to be NPC AI detail. Good. Equals storage dot quota template ID ID. You gotta spell stuff right. Quota, nope. Budget equals storage template ID, nope, dot units granted, consumed budget equals storage template, it's going to be 0. And what else have we got? Created date equals today. Anything else? Nope. To do. What about a user who is coming back and already has a bunch of things stored with their old account? So yes, and you're right. However, datetime.now is going to be evaluating from the context of the server. And right now the server is only going to be in East US. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a good call out. Thank you for that. Tessie just posted in the chat that I should probably use UTC instead of just raw now, because that standardizes things to exactly one time code, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what time zone you're using. And that's especially important when it comes to things like subscriptions and things that recur and so on and so forth. Now, it's unlikely that we're going to be using these values in the UI, but let's make absolutely certain. And we've got resource quota. Do we have any dates in here? Budget consumption. Nope. How about user quota? We do not. We absolutely do in user subscription. And we had best rename these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to localize those to the user's local time context when we're pushing them out for display. And by marking all of those date fields as UTC, it's going to tell any developer that comes in that they need to use UTC time codes. So I'm going to rename all of these UTC. That is a fantastic call out, and I've done that in the past when doing enterprise development, and I don't know why I hand waved that away when I was setting this stuff up yesterday, Tezzy. Probably just brain rot in the moment, because that's the exact kind of thing that decision would taste only like regret if you hadn't called me out and I hadn't come in and started fixing these things. Oh, crap. Those are SQL models. I can't do that here because I'd actually have to go update. No, I don't. Column attribute, properties, order, created date. And I don't want to go into the database and rename those columns because renaming a column in T-SQL usually means having to drop it and recreate it. And F that. All right, created date. Oh, updated date. I am using. I developed the database locally in a copy of SQL Server community that's running in a Docker container, and I just use SSMS. And I use just that for the table designer, and then I script the tables out to a SQL file. And right now, I'm just running those SQL files manually. Migrations scare the ever-living daylights out of me. Because I've seen a migration go wrong. I came into an organization as a consultant slash contractor many years ago when they were first starting to experiment with Entity Framework and migrations. And they ran a migration and lost 7 years of data. Granted, it was in their test database, thank goodness, but it took down their development environment for a day Well, they restored this multi-terabyte database from a backup. Um, I've been scared off of migrations ever since. I know there's some open source products out there like Flyway and stuff like that, but honestly, for a database that's running right now, I think a half dozen tables at most, I just assume like export a script, copy it into the query editor in the Azure SQL database thing, and just run it up there as an admin. Then dick around with automating all of this stuff. It's very unlikely that I'm going to be selling this product as a product. It's going to exist as a SaaS thing. Now, if Wizards or Kobold or Paizo see it and they say, hey, can we have the source code and stand it up in our environment? We'll pay you. Then I'll look into that stuff as far as just creating a giant install to the cloud package. But chances are they're going to either want to run this on their own servers or they're not using Azure and they would need their own stuff for that. But in that case, it'd be a real simple matter to just come in and alter the DB contexts to actually stand the tables up if they're missing. But yeah, I'm not using any kind of DevOps thing for the data anyway. Oh God, it was it was it was a shit show. Pardon my language. Yeah, that database was multi terabytes. Just about every table had a foreign key to almost every other table in the database. Um, it would have been multi gigabyte if it weren't for all the indices and foreign key references and all of that stuff. The database itself was an absolute mess. Like we're talking just a collection of some of the worst database design practices I have ever seen. If it weren't full of I would recommend that it be published publicly as a cautionary tale. All right, so quote a template SQL model, consumption, inference time UTC required, column, inference time. I should just do this now because if I don't, I'm going to forget. And then I'm going to be scratching my head wondering why the hell my entity framework code is failing. Rename. Or why some dates are UTC and some aren't, so on. So I'm just going to knock these tweaks out now. Rob, come on, man. When you get to 50, 51, you start to suffer more and more from minor cases of craniorectal impaction. And it seems to be, instead of what used to be a formerly acute condition that would flare up from time to time, it's become a steady state where I've just got my head in my ass. Column created date UTC. Here we go. And I'm just going to do this column updated date. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Rename to UTC. Bam. Now, I just made a whole bunch of changes, some of which I might have remembered to use rename, others I might have just done raw. And oh yeah. Created date UTC. There we go. Where's the other one? I already fixed it, you silly goose. Build. Oh, it's building or something. Build. All right, good. That's all been fixed. Now let's close down these SQL models. Quoted template SQL model. There we go. User subscription data provider. That's right. We've got the new sub, storage templates, and I don't actually want to do this way. And I before E except for then. And let's see. Tessie's asking if there's an advantage to going with file scope namespaces or brace encapsulated namespaces. And computationally, I don't think there's a difference. I don't know if there is. I think the only advantage to using a file scoped namespace is you get rid of this level of indent. I believe that's the only advantage. I don't like it because I'm old and set in my ways. I can think of no valid reason from an architectural or structural perspective to not use file scoped namespaces. There are some architects and software design engineers that I follow, that I've studied under, that I've paid to study under, that I respect a lot, that say never to use them. I don't recall ever seeing why, but I just see that in their personal coding standards, they say never ever to use those file scope namespaces. So they've been right about everything else I've ever heard from them. So I'm just going to keep using it like that. I'll keep doing it old school. until I'm given a compelling reason not to. This much indent is almost a compelling reason. Almost. Now, here for storage templates and token templates, I really should look in user quota for those existing things. Now, I need to step away for a minute, so I'm going to hit the be right back screen and mute, and I'll be back in like 2 minutes, real quick. Sorry about that. You get to a certain age, and coffee, when coffee says it wants to leave, it's not patient about it. All right. So I want to make sure I'm not fully resetting somebody's storage or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is user quota. Yeah. var. I can see your chats now. Frightful, good morning. How do you do? Existing storage. Not 2 words, you dope. Equals ctx dot user quotas. Huh, that's weird. Yeah, no, that's not through anything I did, Frightful. Dot first or default async s dot user ID equals user ID double equals, you fool. Here we go. That was silly. And also s dot quote a template ID equals storage template dot ID. There we go. All right, now var existing tokens equals ctx dot user quotas dot first or default. And yes, I know I'm missing a little something on these lines. I'll get that added in a second. T dot user ID equals user ID my brain has been mixing up C# and VB syntax the past couple of days, and I don't know why. I hope that's not an omen. There we go. Now, if existing storage is null, all right, and ctx dot user quotas dot add storage quota. Good. Else, no, existing storage dot current budget. Do I have an updated date? I do. Equals now. And ctx dot user quotas dot update existing storage. There we go. So there's that. If existing tokens equals null, user quota SQL model, new tokens equals new quota SQL model. And I'm going to grab almost all of this stuff. I'm going to grab all of it, and then I'm just going to modify it to token and token template. There we go. Yeah, did I add this? Yes, I did. ctx dot user quotas dot add new tokens. Else existing tokens dot updated equals now. Update the context. Update the existing tokens. This comes up at the top of all of this crap that I'm doing. This method is hideous. But I'm not like this. This code might change every so often, but it's not likely to change outside of the life cycle of some other related change. And I'm not likely to need to share any of this stuff because it's unlikely that I'm going to be granting quota without an accompanying subscription of some sort. Now, I'm going to be altering them for sure, but I'm not necessarily going to be granting them. So it doesn't make sense to extract all of this stuff out unless it's just purely for readability. I've added the subscription. I've added or updated their quotas. Then I need to await CTX dot save changes async. Bam. Now, result payload equals what did I call it? New sub dot to DTO. Var user quota equals new user quota user ID equals user ID. What else have we got on here? AI generations equals something. Rename. Storage quota. Rename. Storage quota. Why am I... Rename token quota. Why am I littering? Oh, good God. I don't know. How much food can you buy before your house explodes? I'm frightened of this. Okay, there we go. I had done a dumb thing. I'd been littering my heap with all of these vars and stuff, and it was needless that I did so. Token quota. And it was just about to cause confusion and dismay. Oh, that message was frightful. But I did not see the answer to your question of how much food can you buy before your house explodes. I need to know so that I can either act accordingly the next time I go get groceries or warn the next person who's going to get groceries. AI generations equals token quota dot to not to string. Did I do something? I probably did something stupid in the usage data transformers. Extract quota of kind, of course, because dir public static resource quota to GTO this user quota SQL model, and I'm not going to use model, I'm going to use the word SQL here because I'm going to grab this, DTO, I'll read your response to that in a moment there, Mr. Frightful. Return DTO and DTO equals that, but only if SQL is not equal to null. And I need to pass the quota kind. And that will be a quota template. Quota kind. You have 2 minutes to buy food before your house explodes, and the second any piece of food touches the floor, or you touch the floor, the bombs will be diffused. But if you fail to get food in 2 minutes, your house will blow up. The minimum food is 86 items, so no buying one thing and running. Good Lord. That's crazy, and I don't want to play that game. It sounds like some Saw kind of stuff. And I remember when Saw came out, my desire to see Saw kind of went up and down. I eventually gave in. All right. It's SQL.toDTO, and I do need to pass the quota kind. There we go. So there's that. I've got my handy dandy little extension method. Boop. Come back out to the here token quota dot to DTO, and I gotta pass the token template. And then I need to write the storage quota equals storage quota dot to DTO with the storage template. There we go. And these will not be null. So I can say, go away, null warnings. I know they're not null. I have assigned them. New user quota, so result payload dot, spell it right, dot user, no, quota equals user quota. Nope, your chat is working fine. Result payload.quota equals user quota. Everything's assigning. We're putting errors in place where errors need to be. And I believe we've got an implemented new subscription. That's going to get tested later. But I wanted to get this in here now. We can shrink that. Let's do load subscription. Op result of user subscription. Result equals new. Op result of user subscription. Boopity boop. Turn result. Make this async to get rid of my angry red stuff. And my phone has just chirped to tell me that it's only got 20% battery remaining. And that caused me to look at the clock and realize that I've gone 15 minutes over my usual preferred time. So I'm going to finish implementing this class in between now and 1 o'clock when I come back. And we're going to start integrating this data access code into a workload manager. And then we're going to push that all the way out, or we're going to push the methods that we expose on the workload manager all the way out to the API that the front end is using. So that when somebody generates or uses the AI to flesh out the description, we will track the tokens that are used, and we will increment their budget consumption for AI tokens. When we save a new character, we're going to increment the quota on the number of characters that we're allowed to save. And we're also going to set up for, even though there's nothing for it in the UI yet, delete character, so that when they get rid of a character, they don't want to have it anymore, it decrements the amount of storage that they've used. So the way that those two quotas are going to work is tokens. We're going to treat tokens like Skittles. Once you've eaten them, there's no giving them back. Please don't try to give the Skittles that you've eaten back to me. I don't want those. But the storage, you can borrow it. And then you can actually release the amount of storage. That's like space on your desk. When your desk gets full, you can always take stuff off and put it somewhere else, and you've got space for more things on your desk. The AI tokens, they're like Skittles or potato chips or whatever. Once you use them, you can't give them back. So we're going to have to work out some ways to display that and so on. But we're going to plumb all of this data access code down through some workload managers and stuff like that out to the AI or API, so that I don't have my UI code directly calling database code and all of that stuff, because that's messy and horrible. And it makes it way harder to fix, tweak, and change things later on. So until then, I want to say thank you all for hanging out and joining me. Frightful, it's always fun when you pop in. And I don't know if Tezzy stuck around, but Tezzy had some great input, and I appreciate it. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll be back this afternoon. Take care, everybody. Happy coding.